Today, you're getting the real Lost LeBlanc. No fancy transitions, no B-roll to try to hook your attention, just deep, meaningful chats and connection. And one thing you'll probably come to see is that true to my name, Lost LeBlanc, sometimes I don't really know my way. Sometimes I'm just like you, fumbling through life, trying to find answers, but working damn hard to try and find those answers. And ultimately, this video today is meant for one purpose. It's meant to share what's going on behind the scenes, to share what's the real meaning and purpose of this channel, because I think over time that purpose may have been diluted a little bit. It might have become less clear. And so I just want to hang out. I want to chat with people that have been there since the start, that have hung out with me from 2015 onward, and have seen the growth, have seen the change, the ups, and of course, certainly some downs. And I also want this to act as kind of like a journal, because that's how this channel started in the first place. Back in 2015, it was like a journal of a broke backpacker traveling through Southeast Asia. And in 2016, it became the journey of an unconfident ex-accountant trying to escape the 9-to-5 corporate life. And as you probably know, it worked. My mission was complete. And when that happened, I think the purpose of Lost LeBlanc took a little bit of a confusing turn. You see, the reason so many of us watch YouTube is because there's a real connection. There's a real person behind that lens. But when the mission is gone, when the purpose behind the channel fades, it's like, well, what's all this for? Like, is it just a series of travel vlogs, travel guides? Is it just a series of random videos and a failed game show? Like, that's kind of where my channel went into a little bit of an identity crisis. Just like, I never really shared what makes me do the things that I do. Why do I put all my time and energy into growing my business, growing my health and my mental state? It's because of this one mission, well, series of missions, and I really want to get into that today. Like, what is the why behind Lost LeBlanc? Now, the crazy thing is, as I talk to you on my own channel, I feel almost uncomfortable making this video because it is so opposite to everything else I've been making. You see, my channel has become a little bit routine, a little bit formulaic, and admittedly, it's lost its way, I would say, more so than usual over the last year. I'll be the first to say some of my videos in the last year have low-key kind of sucked. They've often been created under the pressure of chasing a brand deal because I now have salaries. I have 10 to 12 different people on my team, or at least I did. I'll talk about that in a sec. And with that added team came added pressure to pay, added pressure to earn, and with building a team came added time constraints, more time being invested in trying to build out structures, systems, finding the right people, and admittedly, it meant that not only do I now have more pressure to create, I also have less time to create the right things. And I really want to fix that. Like, this is a video of me just coming clean and being like, I'm not very excited about where Lost LeBlanc is at right now. I know what this brand stands for. It's something we're about to chat about, but it's not what it's currently been doing. Beyond being a business, this is the opportunity to do good for the world. And right now, my mission with my content is it has to either help me grow, help others grow, or it has to push me closer to my mission. So a little bit about where I think my YouTube channel fell off. So I have always been a little bit entrepreneurial in spirit, but definitely had no entrepreneurial upbringing. I never really had anyone in my life to look up to, and so oftentimes I've had to be the one to go find the answers. By making every mistake in the book, I've usually found my way. And that kind of brings me to this point where I have, over the last 2 years, scaled a team up to maybe at the top 12, 13 people. And it was really exciting at first because I thought hiring somebody for a responsibility meant that they would work on something with the same level of intensity and excitement that I would. But in reality, what I failed to realize is that that's just not the case. When you build a team, you need to have structure. You need to have set responsibilities. You need to have KPIs, like set deliverables that they must attain on a weekly basis. You have to check in on to make sure that they're achieving those things. And when I just kind of blindly hired and stacked people on the team, I increased salaries a hell of a lot, but the output actually declined. It was really stressful. And after fidgeting, moving things around for a year, but putting all my energy in the wrong places, I became really frustrated, really disappointed, but not really realizing that the team wasn't the issue. It was more so internal. It was more so a lack of skill and knowledge in what I was doing. And so I would say the last 12 months have been great steps of progress, but still quite slow. Today, as I speak to you, we're down to a team of about 7. I feel like this is back to a size that feels a bit better for me. It feels a lot less stressful. And also it allows me to make sure that the people who are in place are getting the time and attention and training that they need to be successful so that I can step away. It also means that I've been very grateful to have found a manager to step in to ensure that I'm doing less and less of the day-to-day check-ins. And that's been extremely valuable. But the good news is things are moving in the right direction. And if you were to look at my week, I mean, I'd say 15% is going to here, the Lost LeBlanc YouTube channel, which, as you can probably imagine, is part of the issue. I need to be back in there and scripting, because I think that at the heart of it, where good videos come from is when they are planned out in advance, when love and energy and focus is put into them. And that hasn't been happening very often, but I promise you it is about to start happening. So stay tuned. I really believe you'll see an immediate shift in the quality, and if not the quality, I think it's the awareness that I want to get back to just being super transparent, super myself, and I think that the showmanship, while it may have its place from time to time, I think it's also diluting the connection and the reality of what's going on here. And so I think that ultimately my goal with the channel is to get back to a place where I can just talk to you like this. And it might not be mass engagement the same way, shouting at the camera might, but I think it's more important to have a real relationship with 1,000 people than it is to have a superficial one with 1,000,000 people. Now, the other 15% is probably going into developing Lost Villas, and that's been honestly so rewarding. I don't plan to change that. I am having too much fun with it. Another 15% right now is going into Lost Creator Academy, which is where I teach content creation. And ultimately, I think that that's another spot that needs a significant boost up. And while not every single amount of additional hour will come from me, it's finding the right people to build out that. So this year, we're gonna get to a place where we're gonna have a global meetup every month. We wanna have more events like we just did the other day when we had 150 creators come to the Lost Creator House. And I wanna have more physical, in-person meets, get-togethers, and more online ones too, because I think that while the training has been valuable, it's like where I'm really seeing impact and value is by bringing the people together. It's like ultimately, I think that's where 2022 and 23 was a realization that Lost LeBlanc, the power of it is community building. It's bringing people together, whether they be digital nomads, creators, and the other thing that's taking about 40% of my time, but fortunately has been decreasing, I'd say every week for the last few weeks, has been the team management. And right now that's a balloon that needs to be shrunk down. It needs to make space for Lost LeBlanc. It needs to make more space for Lost Creator Academy, and even maybe a little more time for Lost Villas and Lost Homes. As you probably know, when you're deep in routine, when you are so flat out running on red line, trying to keep up with everything, sometimes your why, your lighthouse can fade. And I definitely feel that that's been a little bit of my case at times. And I think that this last 24 hours has been very valuable. It's actually what inspired me to write down some of my thoughts, just journal it out. Right now I'm in Karangasem in a beautiful part of Bali, just surrounded by mountains and greenery. And it's given me a little bit of mental clarity of like, what is it that Christian is working toward? And to find that answer, I basically asked myself, where do I want to see myself in 10 years? On the foundational level, it's about security and stability. I think that my biggest dream in life has always been to provide my family the rock steady life that they need. The things I really dream of are having a kick-ass wife, just absolutely loving her to pieces, to be able to grow a beautiful family with 3 kids. I think 3 sounds about right. Probably 8 dogs, I'm not even joking. Of course, I'll need a nice plot of land, but it seems like this could be a spot to make that happen. I want to be surrounded by my parents and my brother. I honestly just had one of the most, I'd say, milestone moments in my life when I was able to treat them to this amazing trip to Dubai. And I think my parents and I have always had a beautiful relationship, but there's always been more of this like parent-guardian / child relationship, but this trip kind of felt like, you know, while over the many years that certainly has become more of a friend relationship, this was the trip where it just felt like I was hanging out with my besties, traveling the world, laughing, enjoying the finer things, and I want to be able to live that more often. I want to be able to see them here in Bali, because this is really where I see myself growing my foundations, my roots. I want to raise children that speak English and Bahasa. I am so in love with the people of Bali. They are so kind, so sweet. They understand that life is not just about money and power. It's about tradition, it's about ceremony, and it's about family. And that's something that I think in certain chapters of my life I've lost out on. It's been my lighthouse that has sometimes been covered in fog because I'm so head down trying to build, but losing sight of some of the things that really matter. And naturally, one of the most important parts of that is that lifelong wife, that partner. And Ruby and I have been investing really heavily in building out our relationship. I'm in a stage in my life where I'm so far beyond that chasing girls moment. I'm looking for someone to build my foundations with, to grow with, to build a family with. And I think that, Ruby and I have had such a natural compatibility on so many levels. She is so gentle and feminine and loving and caring and sweet and soft, and I think that these are the exact qualities that have attracted me to her. And for her, she is also an incredibly easygoing person. I think that's something that would be a natural must for me in a relationship, because if somebody's going to join in on this journey, while it may be beautiful to be traveling the world, while it may be beautiful to be here in Bali, to some extent that person is uprooting their life and what they may have known if they're coming from somewhere like Ruby did, America. And so I think that there's on so many levels this beautiful dynamic in our relationship, and I know that we're both investing a lot in making that flourish. To be honest, it's certainly not perfect. We have so many ups and we have certainly some really strong downs. There's moments where these two people that really love each other just cannot connect. They can't understand each other as much as they try. And just the other day we had this fight where it was like this look in both of our eyes where like, it wasn't even frustration, it was just pure sadness. It was like, we cannot get through to each other and we're fighting over silly things, but the fact that we cannot resolve, it was really sad. And it was this realization that two people who really love each other sometimes just can't speak the same language. And I like to be honest about this because even our therapist has told us, like, it's kind of your responsibility. If you're gonna be building a following and helping people, you need to let them in on every aspect. And that certainly means the challenges, the imperfections of life. And trust me, I'm full of imperfections. I definitely am proud of the man I've become, but there's a lot that I'm working on. And there's a lot of things that I need to work on, like softening my heart and being able to be more available emotionally for the people around me. And so Ruby and I are in this very, I'd say, aware state where we are like, yes, that could very well be the person that I build my life with, but we have a lot of growing to do. And I love the fact that we are both willing to do that together. So that's certainly been a chapter in life of learning. I don't think I've ever had a previous relationship where I have been in a state where I've been ready to do that, where I've been ready to, avoid the tendencies to, let's say, get immediately frustrated. When I get upset, I typically go quiet. So to try and undo years of habits, I think it takes a level of responsibility and maturity. I feel like I'm now in that state, and I definitely feel that from Ruby too. And ultimately, we are here praying that we find a way to make this work, because these are two people that love each other, that are fully committed to one another and trying to make it. It's just now we have to really try and unlearn some of our tendencies so that we can be compatible for one another. And if not, then admittedly, we have to do it for ourselves in the future, because oftentimes the things we see going wrong in our current relationships are the things we see happen in the next and the next. And so as much as it might be easier to cut clean sometimes, in reality it only postpones the day where you become the person you need to be for that partner. Now, one of the things that's back to my why is like, okay, I want to be a rock for my family, for my kids. I want to have 8 rescue dogs and maybe even a dash hound. And ultimately, I live in a townhouse right now, and it's a wonderful place to live, but it doesn't give me the ability to do that. And right now, I'm actually looking at land. And I'm not just talking about a plot, I'm talking about a sizable amount. The kind of plot of land where I could not only build a home that would support that, but also be able to invite the right people into my life. I see myself, back to it, building community, building spaces that bring the right people together. And oftentimes that's been you. My dream is to build a retreat, a co-work, a spa, a gym, a getaway location where all of the nonsense of the world just seems to fade away. And while I don't believe that it's great to run away from problems, one of my ultimate goals in life right now is to have a shield. To be able to block out so much of the negativity that has sadly taken over a lot of the Western world. Quite literally, I feel every single day I'm distancing myself more and more from my past life. I don't see myself aligned with so much of what's going on back in my home country of Canada, a place that I grew up seeing as a perfect country. I truly believed that it was a place where I would one day raise my family, but in its current state, I really don't see that happening. It's a place where division and frustration and hatred is so rampant, and it's spread like wildfire through social media. It's a place where we have to have discussions of whether our children should be pumped full of chemicals to redefine their genders. It's absolutely crazy what's going on in that country, and it's not just Canada. It's going on across the developed Western world, and for some, that's going to be a comment that frustrates them. To you, I say, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. But ultimately, I want my children completely raised away from that environment. I want them to have a life where they are surrounded by greenery, by loving people who believe in the basics of life, of community, family, good food. I dream of growing my own crops, of having our own cattle, our own livestock. I think that another concern of mine is truly, when it all comes down to it, is like, when you're in the Western world, you don't even know where 99% of your clothing comes from, your food comes from. Here in Bali, like, I wore this robe the other day and I checked the tag on it and it's like literally made from somebody right next door. The food that I had for dinner last night was literally made from right next door. The ingredients came from right next door. And well, I think that's an incredible luxury that this life has afforded me. It's one that I find very important to me. I think that my biggest dream right now is to find a land that allows me to bring in the right people, build out the life as I see fit, just as everyone should be doing right now, building the life that they see fit. And truly, having fallen so in love with the local culture, I want to find a way to invite that into the space. I don't want this to just be a Western resort where people go and spend high dollars just to get away. I want this to somehow become some sort of common living area, and I don't know. This is a dream, but anytime I've kind of put a dream on paper, it seems to have come true. And I think that ultimately, this is something that could happen very soon. I was literally looking at land just the other day. I've found some interesting pieces. Now, the other thing I was thinking about yesterday is, like, truthfully, I don't feel I've been giving back enough. And I've been given a truly incredible blessing that is this business, this channel. The revenue streams that have come through the other businesses that I've built have been more than my former self could have ever dreamed of earning, didn't even know I was capable of earning. And so with that blessing, I feel like it's important for me to figure out where are the areas I'm giving back? Where are the areas that I'm having positive impact? And to be honest, I don't have an answer just yet. I know that when it comes down to it, like, for me, it's got to start somewhere with, like, the people of Bali. I think that that's an area where I see an immediate want and desire to help. There's also some poorer islands than this one. Bali is actually, in terms of Indonesia, in a fairly good standing. It's a very, rich soil where food grows in abundance, and that's a real blessing for this island. But there's islands that have it a lot harder, like Lombok, and it's a drier island. It doesn't have the same quite agricultural leg up that Bali does, and it's just got less money being poured into its economy. And so that's another place that I think has so much room for support and love. And then also even other creators and other digital nomads. I would say if there was one greatest discovery of my life, it's the power of an average person. When an average person does unusual things every day, whether that be setting time aside for their health, their wellness, for their business, and they keep doing it even when others are going out, even when others are going on vacation, even when others are ridiculing them, it's truly incredible, the limitless potential that it brings. And for me, it's been the full stop realization of, like, when I look at myself and where things started, it's the greatest gift ever. I love watching my old videos because I see myself and I remember the mindset that I was in. And I love that life gives you the opportunity to change your outcome. You don't have to be where you are today if you don't want to. It's not easy to make changes because it involves discomfort, It takes momentary displeasure, but when you make those small and sometimes big sacrifices for long enough, the reward is so much greater than anything you could have earned in the short term. And that's where I'm at in my life now. When I look back and I'm like, damn, I'm so grateful to that younger Lost LeBlanc, or as it used to be called, Christian's travel vlog, who made the decision to go abroad, to leave the Western world and go into what felt like such a foreign territory. I remember when I used to think Asia was kind of this confusing and backwards place. I was kind of led to believe that by what I had seen growing up in the Western media. But it's funny how full circle, I now feel like when I'm here, I look back at the Western world and think quite the opposite. And I think how backwards the Western world has become. And it breaks my heart to see the average person's mental state there. It's just downright sad. And you see people, they come here to Bali and all they can think is, how can I extend this? How can I be here longer? I don't want to go back to what I have there. And I think that that's back to one of my missions, is like trying to help people take control of their life through a skill, through a way to actually monetize a life of being in Portugal or being in Bali or being in Malawi, wherever you choose to call your home. To be able to do that from there is one of the greatest gifts once you unlock it. And lastly, something that I think is kind of one of my greatest passions is my home. This is not my home, but it has aspects of what I like to see in a home. It's got hand-carved pillars in front of me, all done by a local Balinese carpenter. It's got greenery, surrounding nature, and it's got so many little unique one-off pieces that tell a story. And for me, that's the definition of home. I love working from home, being at home. One of my big passions right now is making the ultimate home. And yes, selfishly, this first one is for me, but naturally I'm looking to expand it and extend it so that I can open up spaces that bring people comfort, warmth, and love wherever they stay. When I think about it, like arriving in Bali and where I first was, feeling disconnected, separated, truly like a tourist and not any form of actual connection to the island, I dream of building spaces that allow people to arrive here and immediately feel some level of at-homeness, some level of community and connection. And that's kind of back to where my mission is in Lost LeBlanc. And so here's the reality. Now that I've shared my vision, my dream, the truth is I need to now go and make the videos and share the messages that help me further that mission. And it's certainly not to say that some videos won't have travel vlog-esque elements in them, because ultimately I still really like doing them. I still think there's value in them, but I really want to try and let through more of this personal side in these videos. Maybe it comes at the sacrifice of a little bit of retention rate, but I think that ultimately, like, if a video could be almost like a journal where you can not only keep up with the destination, but also where that person is at, it would be a really beautiful thing to be able to see the good and the bad. And so I quite literally need to pack up right now because I have about a 2-hour drive to the airport. Ruby and I are going on a trip to Saudi Arabia. We're very, very excited about that. And then from there, Ruby's gonna be going back to see her family for about a month in America, which will be very nice for her before we all come back to Bali to celebrate my 30th. We're actually taking a boat out to Raja Ampat, which, if you don't know what that is, it is deemed the last aquatic paradise on this earth, which is kind of dark and grim, but ultimately I can't think of a better way to celebrate my 30th than a pirate ship, some of my best friends, and one of the most perfect places in the world. I want to be very intentional to take that 30th off, to just fully disconnect for those 4 or 5 days and just enjoy it. Because when I think about it, yeah, like I see a mountain ahead of me, and sometimes that mountain feels a little daunting, a little stressful, but when I look at how far up the mountain I am than where I started, it just reminds me that it's so important to be grateful for the wins, for the successes, and for this chapter. And if you are a part of this chapter here on the Lost LeBlanc channel, I just want to say thank you, because truly you guys are so much of the fuel that keeps me going. You guys are the voice, the inspiration to go out there and create better, to do better for you and to do better for me too. And so I want to say thank you for being there. It really does mean a lot. There's so much beauty in the struggle of life, and I hope you see that too. For anyone that plays video games or played video games, you know damn well that when you put in the cheat codes, the game loses purpose. And so I am enjoying it, taking it in strides, and I hope to share with you another update video if that feels right. Yeah, I'm gonna try not to be too much of a stranger on my own channel. I think that ultimately this is the core of what our community is, our family is, and on that note, let's get lost again in the next one.